farm, and soybeans are a big part of that. Today we are fortunate to have Mr. Dan Arkles, winner of the Illinois Soybean Association Yield Challenge, with us to share some of his insights he used to establish a new state record that beat the former soybean yield record by nearly 15 bushel per acre. At any time during this presentation, please feel free to enter questions into the chat box so we can answer those questions at the conclusion of our discussion. Dan, let's turn it over to you.
Morning, everyone. Morning, Vince. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your growers about growing high-yielding soybeans. My story starts about a year ago from right now. Illinois Soybean Association sponsors a yield challenge every year where they challenge Illinois soybean growers to try to grow over 100 bushel an acre soybeans. We started this project. A Stoller representative, Stoller USA, approached me and said, "I want to help you get to this, get your soybean yield to this level and win this contest." And so that's where the story began. We started to put a plan together and team members together to grow 100 bushel soybeans. My team was consisted of myself, Don Stork from Stoller USA, Dan and George Lukach, my seed dealers, Sean Clapp of Rosen's Incorporated, and Dave Callan, my CCA from Grainco FS in Boston, Illinois. We met at the field every 2 weeks approximately, scouted the field, checked the field out completely to find out what was going on in that field, and then planned our next application throughout the entire growing season. It was very important, to have more than just myself in that field looking at the field and the plants, and to try to find out what was going on in the field and what we needed to do to ensure plant health and keep the crop going. You can change the screen there. So this is where it all starts. You have to do soil testing and find out what's going on in the soil profile of your land and your fields. This field, had lines spread on it previous years, and we had a pH level of in the low to mid threes or sixes. I'm sorry, 6.3 to 6.4 something range. And then we spread fertilizer. For what we want to grow, we set our yield goals ahead, and then come in and spread our fertilizer so that we have the fertility in place to grow what we want to grow. Little story on the 100 bushel yield plot. We spread fertilizer for a normal soybean crop like we would have. I came to the Commodity Classic and decided that we were going to try to grow 100 bushel soybeans. So I came back, and my first call was to Dave Callan, telling Dave that we need to spread more fertilizer to support a 100 bushel soybean crop, and he agreed, and we went back to the field and spread more fertilizer and basically laid the foundation for growing a 100 bushel soybean crop. So we can change this. There you go. So this is a planting picture. This is the actual day of planting the yield challenge plot. As you can see, the soil conditions were nearly ideal. This field had been previous corn for 3 years. It had been soybeans 4 years ago, and then before that it had been continuous corn for 10 years. So in the last 15 years it had been soybeans. This was the second crop of soybeans in 15 years. I was pretty dedicated to doing whatever I had to do to get to this. This is actually a new planter. It's a 1790 John Deere planter. Plants the beans in 15-inch rows. It's, in my mind, it's very important to get to a closed crop canopy for more than one reason. Weed control is huge, and it just gives the plant more space to branch out, and it gives it like its own little space. Seed was treated with a full fungicide and insecticide treatment, inoculant, and then also treated with Bioforge, Stolar's Bioforge seed treatment. The day we planted beans here, it was 90 degrees on May 8th. Like I said, nearly ideal conditions, and beans went in the ground just absolutely perfect, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches deep. Emerged in about 5 to 6 days, and we're in real good shape after emergence. This is actually an emergence shot here of beans coming in, and as you can see, from the time we planted until emergence, we did have probably about 3.5 to 4 inches of rain. Emergence was fairly good. We went with 182,000 when we planted them. We wound up with a final stand of right at about 170,000. So this is a shot of the beans after they emerged, about 2 weeks. As you can see, they were planted at a slight angle, and the reason for that is when we come back and spray them, we can run the sprayer straight across those rows and not be driving on a row and wipe out an entire row, so that you're back to a 30-inch gap there. It works real well this way. You can run your sprayer on guidance down these rows and actually come back for your second pass and be right back in that same path. You're wiping out like a 14-inch path instead of taking out an entire row. So that's the reason for that. Crop was fairly healthy when it emerged, as you can see, and we were off for the races from there on out. So here's our first pass. So we sprayed this early application to get on top of weed control, and then also foliar feed. There was a application of micronutrients in this, and then also Bioforge, Stolar's Bioforge, and Stimulate to try to create branching. That's what we wanted to accomplish, is to try to create branching to have more nodes for pod set and flowers. And we did accomplish that. Plants had anywhere from 4 to 5 branches on them that did have pods on them. So this application, in my opinion, is absolutely huge for more than one reason. For the weed control, number one, if you have Roundup resistant weeds, they're sure a lot easier to kill when they're small like this, and it's a good application for creating branching and giving the crop early nutrients. So this is a drone shot. We flew a drone over the field. As you can see, crop canopy is lush and green. Sprayer tram marks are kind of fading away, and it was just a healthy field of beans from start to finish, emergence to finish. But this picture here kind of tells a story on what was going on in the field. It's just a green, lush, healthy field from one end to the other. Here's another crop shot. In full canopy, light inception is very important. You don't want to have sunlight hitting the dirt. You're losing energy, and that could be going into your crop for final yield. This crop was fairly healthy, extremely healthy actually throughout the entire growing season. Insect pressure was very low. We've had Japanese beetles pressure in the past, and this year they were virtually non-existent, and that was probably because of the frost that we had, the deep frost that we had the year before, the winter before, and as far as insect pressure, we were fairly good, and we kept applying biologicals and the Bioforge and that to keep the crop healthy and moving forward. This tells a story also. That's my hand in front of a leaf that takes up the whole hand, and if you've looked at soybean plants a lot, you usually don't see a leaf this big on them, but you know, that leaf serves as the refrigerator to store the nutrients to fill pods later on in the season. You know, so we're extremely excited to see this, you know, moving forward, you know, and it's just a very healthy sign when you see this kind of a leaf in soybean plants. So aerial applications were a very important part of my program. We ran 2 ground passes and then 4 aerial applications throughout the growing season, and they were all about 2 to 3 weeks apart. You know, we applied micronutrients. Grainco FS has a product called Harvest Max. That was in every application. You know, it's rich in nitrogen and sulfur and manganese and several other micronutrients that the crop is needing at that time. Also, the Stoller Bioforge went in on all the applications, and some slow-release nitrogen to feed the crop, you know, going forward. So I walked this field a lot. I was in the field at least 4 to 5 times a week, and our team was in the field at least, you know, every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. We were in the field with the entire team. But I was walking the field one evening, and I come across this plant, so I pulled it and you know, and brought it home with me and held it up, and Marla took a picture of it with me, and you know, it tells a story and what was going on in that field. Also, the branching, you know, the branching that was occurring. Check the root mass out in the top. I mean, it's just an absolute huge root for a soybean plant, and you know, this plant had about 125 pods on it. Average pod count was in the 80 to 85 range, but you know, beans were healthy and thriving throughout the growing season. So this is a picture, a harvest picture Dave Callan had taken while we were harvesting. You know, we use a draper bean head to try to save as many beans as possible when we're harvesting. You know, we were figuring we were losing 2 to 3 bushel per acre with an auger platform, and you know, after walking behind a draper platform and seeing there's virtually no beans shattering from the head, you know, so that's, you know, that's all part of your final yield in the end, you know, is you know, how many beans you can get into the grain tank from the field, and you know, that I felt that head probably saved 2 bushel per acre across the field. Here's a harvest video. As you can see, the plant material coming in the front of the combine is absolutely very impressive. Harvest, the yield monitor is calibrated. You know, it stayed right in the 90 to 120 to 30 bushel range most of the time. As he comes back around, pans back around, as you can see, looking out the window of the combine, they're absolutely weed-free, grass-free. You know, it was just nothing there but lush soybeans, and it was a lot of fun running the combine through that field. So there's another shot. It tells a little bit of a story. When you cut soybeans that are the size of your thumb, you break some sickle sections. And the morning after harvest, there I was changing sickle sections, and I noticed the beans on the draper belts, and took a little picture there of, you know, if you put a dime down to take a picture next to the beans. Beans are huge, and, you know, that adds to a lot of the yield, you know, the size of the seed. So anyway, what I would take from this, you know, if anybody, you know, if they want to increase their soybean yields, I would suggest that you try new things. You know, don't get in a rut and do the same thing year after year. Try new products, try different products. You know, try to keep your, you know, your mind open, and you know, do some research and trials on your own farm to see what you can do to boost your soybean yield. You know, a lot of these products I use can be tank mixed, you know, in a Roundup application, and just, you know, just try different things on your farm to see what you can do to boost your yields. It can be done.
Thank you, Dan. We'll be going back to you here in a few minutes for a question and answer session, and I encourage our audience to enter any questions in the question box at this time if you haven't already. The past year, Unity Seed soybeans had a remarkable season in first trials. A couple highlights including winning outright in the Howe, Indiana first trial by yielding in excess of 90 bushel to the acre with our 3031 Roundup Ready to Yield variety. Also, the 3303 Roundup Ready to Yield soybean averaged over 82 bushel in the Wolcott, Indiana first trial. We're equally excited about the performance of our corn hybrids in 2014. For example, our 7914 3000 GT 114-day triple stack placed second overall in the Otterman, Indiana first trial by yielding 260.6 bushel to the acre. The 7914 also yielded 13 bushel per acre, better than the average of the 54 hybrids in the Elverson, Pennsylvania first trial. So if you're looking for a shorter maturity corn hybrid, Unity Seeds has our 5608 Smart Stack Rib, 108-day hybrid that went 230.8 bushel and was 13.1 bushel per acre above the average of the 60 hybrids in the Greensburg, Indiana first trial. Also, our 4603 VT3 Triple Pro came in second place overall in 2 Iowa State University trials in 2013, one in Corwith, the other in Sheldon. Unity Seeds has been a consistent performer for several years now in both first trials and state university trials across the country. Let's see now if we have any questions for Dan.
Dan, we do have a question. What tillage operation did you perform on the field before you planted the beans?
So the tillage, you know, in the part of the world where I live at, our soils are fairly heavy, and muscatine sable is our predominant soil types. You know, we're black, very deep, in some spots 2 to 3 foot deep. Compaction is a big issue with us. You know, we have to get rid of the compaction one way or another. And you know, so I ran a deep tillage tool, a John Deere disc ripper. We ripped the field probably 12 to 14 inches deep in the fall, and then we came back in the spring with a field cultivator pass and a leveler. And then from there, our pre-plant chemical was put down with some 32% nitrogen as a carrier, about 10 gallons as a carrier. That was stabilized, and then we also used a, you know, the pre-plant chemical verdict to, you know, hold back our weed pressure from there. After that application was made right in front of the planter, we worked it again with the field cultivator, and then planted into that seed bed.
Okay, I have another question. How do you determine your seeding rate, and what do you feel is the optimum soil temperature for the greatest emergence?
So the seeding rate was decided by my seed dealers and myself. We did some research, and we thought for a high yielding situation, we wanted to have a high rate of seed, you know, plants per acre. So we went with 182,000. Like I said, we wound up with a final stand of about 170. In a normal situation, that's probably a little heavier than I would normally plant, but I do normally plant fairly heavy, even in corn and in soybeans. But my theory on that is I want to have plants per acre out there, and that the plant is going to provide you your final yield in the end. What was the second part of the question, Stephanie?
What do you feel is the optimum soil temperature for the greatest emergence?
Okay, so the soil temperature when I planted those beans is still fairly cool. I would like to see, close to 60, mid 50s to 60 degrees. But soil temperatures were a lot different this past growing season in 2014. I actually didn't plant corn when I thought the soil temperatures were too cold and everybody else was already planting. It turns out that, I was always of the thinking you have to have 50-degree temperature soil temperatures before you plant corn. Well, we were in the mid to upper 40s, and everybody was planting corn, and that was actually the thing to do because emergence was good. So I would say with the new seed genetics that we have today, planting can be done a little bit earlier than originally thought.
Okay, great. How did the return on investment come out on this particular field?
Okay, so I get that question a lot. So my normal production acres across 1,000 acres of beans, I averaged in the high 70s, nearly 80 bushel per acre. When you take that and look at an extra 25 bushel an acre that I gained on the yield challenge plot, and take that times 10 bushel an acre, or $10 a bushel, that's $250 worth of extra investment, and I did not spend that on extra products applying it to that field. So there was a return on investment. I will say it's not cheap to grow 100 bushel beans, but when you look at 100 bushel beans or 104 bushel beans times 10, that's over $1,000 of gross revenue per acre. You can spend a lot of money on product, extra money on product to try to see what you can do. I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment out of doing this stuff. I'm very, I enjoy it a lot, and I like to see what plants, the genetic potential of plants, what we could actually produce. It's a lot of fun to see what the plants can do. We're leaving a lot of bushels on the table every year by not taking care of plant health, and I've learned a lot in the last few years by doing that.
Okay, the next question, and some people might have signed in late, so you might have already answered these, but is even emergence as important in beans as it is in corn?
Absolutely is. If you get a plant coming up 2 days after the rest of the plants are up, those plants, when they have all the nutrients in place, they're growing at a rapid rate, and basically the plant becomes a weed after that if it can't catch up to where the rest of the plants are. So even emergence is huge, and then also seed spacing. Seed spacing in soybeans is just about as important as it is in corn. I don't recommend using a drill to plant soybeans because it's no more than a seed distributor. You can't keep even spacing with a drill, and it's the planter is the way to go, and the narrower row I found is actually the better way to go if you can keep disease out, which is white mold. White mold and sudden death syndrome were basically a non-issue for me this past year, and a lot of people went from 30-inch rows to from 15-inch rows back to 30-inch rows to try to prevent white mold, to get more airflow between the canopy, and that actually works, but you're giving up yield because of that. So it's a tough decision to make, but I felt that the 15-inch rows give me my best return on investment.
And what maturity and variety did you use?
So it was the variety was Pioneer, Maturity was 3.4. The variety was Pioneer 34 T07 Roundup Ready 2s. Latest technology, you know, lot of technology coming out in soybean seed now, and you know, it's a lot of good things I'm seeing from the newer varieties.
Okay, Dan, would you change anything from the management side for this next growing season?
Okay, so that's a good question. So what I'm doing going forward in 2015 is taking some of what I've learned from 2014 and moving it into my production acres going forward. And, you know, am I going to do everything I did to that yield challenge plot? No, I'm not. But, you know, there's several passes. You know, one pass I learned a lot from was my final pass of the growing season. So my final pass was flown on in the R5.5 stage. You know, so we, from the time that plane flew over the field and sprayed product until we seen our first yellow leaf was about a week to week and a half. You know, and then the crop naturally turned. You know, from that point on, the natural ripening part of the crop was about at least 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. So that tells you a story also about what was going on in the field. You know, they didn't turn from green to yellow to brown all in 2 weeks. You know, it was a natural ripening process where, you know, we were still filling pods and putting weight into the seed.
Okay, just a couple more. What was the historical crop rotation?
Okay, so the field had been 3 years of previous corn before this soybean crop. So 3 years of previous corn, and then it had a crop of beans 4 years ago, and then before that it was continuous corn for 10 years. So this soybean crop was the second crop in the last 15 years. And it was always continuous corn other than that.
Okay, great. And your criteria for using inoculant?
I think it's very important to use inoculant. You know, seed treatments, in my opinion, are one of the most important things that you can do. You know, there's several important things, but seed treatments, I've been using seed treatments since the very first year that we started treating the seed, you know, and, you know, I've seen huge benefits. I didn't do it all the first year, but from the second year on, I've treated all of my soybean seed. You know, it's just the way to go. You know, you get your plant off to a healthy, fast start. You start root nodulation fairly quickly, and, you know, it's just definitely the way to go.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for today, Dan.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Of information. It's important to let growers keep in mind that achieving yields like this does require a team effort. Also sounds like a lot of constant monitoring and adjustments as needed will make a big difference as well. Please join us again on March 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern for our next webinar, Solutions for a Broken Rotation, Bringing Your Acres Back into Rotation. Check our website for more details at unityseeds.com. Thank you all for spending some time with us today. I hope the information will be helpful as you make your plans for the 2015 planting season. Please remember to call one of our seed advisors at 800-338-4558 for soybean recommendations, and be sure to plant Unity seeds for top value in your 2015 seed investments. Thank you and have a great day.